Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Jared Olsen. He is the Customer Success Manager and Product Evangelist over at Motivisoty. Jared, how's it going today, man?
Dude, it's so good. Thank you so much for having me. I love the podcast and so excited to just be able to chat with you for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Today is another episode in our 5 Things series, and this has just been a ton of fun taking a look at your 5 things before we hopped on to record. They just made me smile, and these have been great conversations. So, really looking forward to this today. With that, let's dive right in. The first thing on your list is something that is so ingrained in my day to day. I wouldn't have the job I have today. I wouldn't have so many of the customer and partner relationships that I enjoy here at Sweetfish today without this item on that makes number one on your 5 things list. Tell us about it.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Man, LinkedIn gets crap. It used to get some crap, right? Do you remember like movies like The Hangover and they're like giving a hard time to LinkedIn. And so I love LinkedIn. I think that if I didn't have LinkedIn, I wouldn't be able to survive. I use LinkedIn probably more than I use email and Slack. It's just such an easy way to connect with people and really be aware of what's taking place. I even kind of wanted to dive into some other social media platforms and tried Instagram and Facebook, and I'll get like no views on those. But if I post something on LinkedIn, I'll get 20,000 views and some real good dialogue and things taking place. And I think it's ripe for disruption for people to go into LinkedIn and connect and to share stories of others and to do business. Like it's such a good place that's more than just finding a job, which is kind of the bad history that it's had. So I love LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There is so much of my day that's spent on LinkedIn, so many great connections, and the platform still has some of these things that irk me, some of the glitchiness and that sort of stuff, but it is getting better. And there are certain ways that you can leverage it for very deep connections. I'm part of multiple engagement groups, which has helped me get more organic reach of my content, but also just fostered some really good relationships and helped me keep great content there on LinkedIn top of mind. Plus, not a lot of people know you can send one-to-one videos and voice messages now with LinkedIn. So whether you're using it for prospecting or building your network, there's just so many things that you could be leveraging if you're not active on LinkedIn today. All right. I get on the LinkedIn soapbox a lot, so I won't say anything more there. But Jared, we are very like-minded, man.
I've got 3 screens at work, and one of them is always LinkedIn. That's how often I use it. Just dedicated
serious,
LinkedIn,
man. Oh, I love it. All right. So number 1 is LinkedIn. Number 2, folks who listen to this show know I'm a bit of a Google diehard. I'm an Android guy, which I catch some flack for some of our team. That's always like, oh, you're turning our text messages green and that sort of stuff. Number 2 is part of the G Suite that you use on a regular basis. And maybe you have some tips and tricks for us. We've had other people here on this series share some really tactical little nuggets as far as Gmail. Number 2 for you is another part of the G Suite, Google Calendar, right?
Love Google Calendar. I don't know how to be able to function if I seriously didn't have Google Calendar. It accounts for every single moment of my day. Like Thanksgiving Day comes up and I'm like, all right, sweetheart, what are we doing for the day? And I put it in Google Calendar, right? I see it on my phone. It gives me the reminders. It tells me where I'm going. I have a Tesla, so it syncs with my Tesla and it actually puts in the address automatically for me and routes me where I'm going. And so the way that I actually use Google Calendar is I account for every minute of every day. And I do them in 30-minute blocks. So if I have a to-do list, instead of creating a reminder or a task, I create a Google Calendar item. And when I look at my day, I know some of those things are to-dos that are flexible and I can move them to other days or different time frames. And so I always am looking at my calendar to say, hey, am I on task with what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And if I miss something, that might be okay. I move it to a different area. I have a personal one for my my own life, and then I have my work one. 2 different color codes, and so every weekend is accounted for, and that personal time with family, when the kids have different basketball games or when they have different activities, I know when it is, where it is, who's going to be there, and it's because I use Google Calendar. I could not function without this. It keeps me organized with everything. I have to have it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like I'm a little bit OCD with my color coding, but it has helped me really just visualize what I have. And I've started to kind of block my day of, okay, well, these are internal calls, these are podcast interviews, these are sales calls. And the color coding has helped me realize, man, I'm doing a lot of context switching. Maybe I can try and block, those internal calls on Mondays where we already have a leadership team meeting, those sorts of things. So I
Yeah.
love that. The other thing I pull out of what you just said that I think is a good reminder for us all is that we need to approach our personal lives with the same sort of intentionality and focus that we do with our lives at work. I think it was Mark Smith. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Carlos Hidalgo. Anyway, someone said this. Those are two guys that I know talk about work-life balance and boundaries a lot. Our work shouldn't get our A game and our family get our B game. And the way that you're just approaching, and it just kind of flowed naturally out of how you use your calendar in both work and life, I think points to that. So kudos to you, man. Hat tip there. All right, let's get to number 3. This is going to be a fun one. Tell us about number 3 on your 5 things.
Okay, so I have noticed the older I get, like it's weird how your body changes, right? And so the older I've gotten, I get dizzy. Like I can't do the teacups at Disneyland. That would just ruin me for days after. I just spinning gets me really dizzy. Heights is something I don't like. And the other thing, which is my third on the list, is my feet are always cold. I don't get it. Like when I was in high school, I live in Utah, so it'd be snow outside. I'd be wearing flip-flops and I'd be great. The number 3 on my list is socks. I just have to have socks on like all of the time. If I don't have a sock on, my feet are freezing. This morning, I went for a run. So I'm exercising, hop out of the shower, and I'm just sweating. I'm just so hot. And I touch my feet, and they are ice cubes. And I was like, I have to get some socks on these things right now. Like, I don't know how I am burning up except for my feet. So number 3 on my list is socks. I always have to have socks on. I'm a huge fan of Stan socks. They're definitely my go-to. And so socks, I have to have them. I can't go around barefoot. Even in the mid of summer, my feet get cold.
That's hilarious, man. I didn't know where you were going with getting older and the body changing, but we went
Feet.
somewhere safe. So what are the Stan socks? Is that what you said, the brand?
Stance,
Okay.
Stance. Awesome. So CEO is Jeff Curl. Really cool product based out of California, blown up all over. Awesome socks. If you need some socks, look up Stance socks.
Cool, man. I love that recommendation for friends and listeners. All right. Number 4, I've heard before that you want to, if anything else, as you age, you want to take care of your feet and your teeth and probably your heart. But tell us about number 4, because it actually falls in line with some of that wisdom I've heard before.
It does. So here's the background. Something weird about me. I like to always have something in my mouth if I can. Like I could get an almond and I could have that almond in my mouth for 3 hours. Like one almond, just slowly like peeling away the skin and chewing away at it. And so to help me like with the hunger and to have something in there, my number 4 is a flosser. Man, I love those little flossing sticks, and then there's opal picks that they're just little, kind of like a toothpick, but you can go just stick in your teeth. And it's not like just because I want clean teeth, and obviously I do because that's good, but like it's just playing with those things. So I have a bag of flossers at my desk, a bag in the car, a bag at home, and there's just always a flosser around. And whenever I just like have that, I need to do something, I grab a flosser, stick it in my mouth, and just kind of play with it while I work. It even helps me get in the zone, like when I'm just cranking away at some work. So
Yeah.
flossers, weird.
That's really interesting, man. I mean, I've heard research about like when you're doodling and sketching, then it activates different creative parts of our brain and helps you with remembering what you're hearing or what you're engaging with. So maybe there's something there because you're driving. You can't be,
Yeah.
doodling and driving. Hopefully not, right? But the other thing is, I know for a lot of people, we need something. We need something tactile to play with in our hands or, have a worry stone or something like you need to fidget and that helps you kind of
Yeah.
focus and relax the body and get into that zone. And for a lot of us, it's like, okay, now I got that trail mix at the desk or I got this or that. And we end up like adding a bunch of calories. So we're getting well into the year. I know a lot of people are probably like fitness goals and their New Year's resolutions are way back in the past. But, if you're thinking about that and like, I need to limit some of my snacking, hey, maybe there's a tip here and you're
Totally.
increasing your dental health at the same time. Kind of
That's
off
right.
the wall tip, but I like it, man.
I see the dentist and they're like, holy cow, you have great teeth. And I'm like, they're like, do you floss? I'm like, roughly 4 hours a day I'm flossing. So like, yeah, I floss.
I love it, man. All right, we're going to round out your list of 5 things with something that everybody knows here at Sweetfish is near and dear to our hearts, and that's podcasts. Tell us a little bit about your podcasting habit these days and how it's helping you.
Yeah, I love podcasts. So I think that I probably most identify as like a husband and a father. Like that's really what my passion is, with number 2 being my faith and belief, and my number 3 being like my business profession. And I digest information for all 3 of those categories via podcasts. Instead of like cranking some tunes to get in the zone, pop in the toothpick and the flosser, and then I crank on a podcast, and I listen to it at 1.5 speed so I can digest it a little bit faster, and it's not too fast to catch. If I listen to some at regular speed, I like, oh my gosh, this is so painful. So I got to crank the speed up a little bit. I can't listen to
myself at 1x. I feel like I'm just so dumb.
I know.
Like, how do I speak this slowly?
Yeah, totally. So crank it up. And I love listening to it. I love learning from other parents and husbands and fathers. I love to listen to religious podcasts. Like my scripture study for the day is like, I'm going to listen to a podcast right now. And on my commute, I listen to a podcast and get filled with, the scripture. And then I get to work and I'm like, man, I really want to learn about this idea. And so who's somebody that has a good podcast about it? And so I listen to it. So I bounce from different podcasts. When I go run outside, I listen to a podcast. I love that there's so many out there that it can fit the current frame of mind that you have. If you need to get pumped up and jazzed, listen to something fun and exciting. If you want to really like stretch your brain, listen to something more intense. If you want the spiritual fulfillment, listen to a religious one. So like there's just so many out there. I love consuming them. And when I get home every day, usually one of the first things I talk about with my wife is, hey, what podcast did you listen today? And we go back and forth and share and learn new ones and listen to some that the other person did. So we love podcasts.
Yep. Listening to podcasts is the new, sitting up in bed with your spouse or significant other and reading at night before you turn in and, what did you read and this and that. So just curious, because you mentioned 3 specific areas. Do you have a podcast you might recommend in each of those areas real quick to give a shout out to if folks are looking for podcasts in one of those areas maybe?
The parenting one is really hit or miss. It's like, hey, my wife will say, hey, I listened to a good one and it has some good tips for us. And so it's not like one specific one. She really likes 3 and 30 is a good parenting one that she likes. For a religious one, I love All In. It's an LDS living podcast. It talks about how to be all in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then a business one that I really like. There's actually just a lot out there. Do I have a favorite? I don't know if I actually have a favorite business one. Geez, no, I can't pick one. There's just too many. They're all great. Like any business one I can get. Being in Utah, like I'm in the Silicon Slopes, and so Silicon Slopes has some really good ones. And there's one they do meat and potatoes, and it kind of gets into the nitty gritty of like how do you perform your functions as a business leader. And so I like local ones, I like national ones. I just consume that all day.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, a couple of good recommendations for folks there. Well, Jared, man, this has been really fun. This has probably been one of the most fun conversations on this series, especially with kind of the side roads we took and some great tips, great perspective for everybody. Jared, if anybody listening to this would like to reach out, stay connected with you, what's the social handles? Where can they find you? Where can they stay connected or learn more about what you and the team at Motivisoty are up to these days?
Yeah, number 1 on my list, LinkedIn. Hit me up, Jared Olsen. So that's the easiest place to find me is LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram on Beyond the Resume. And then Motivisoty is just motivisoty.com. Love for you guys to take a look at what we're doing to help change the employee experience for companies all over the world.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking some time and chatting with me. This has been a ton of fun, Jared.
Hey, thank you, Logan.
I hate it when podcasts incessantly ask their listeners for reviews, but I get why they do it, because reviews are enormously helpful when you're trying to grow a podcast audience. So here's what we decided to do. If you leave a review for B2B Growth in Apple Podcasts and email me a screenshot of the review to james@sweetfishmedia.com, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book, Content-Based Networking, How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. We get a review, you get a free book. We both win.